Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
Hey everybody, welcome. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
You don't sound very enthused, Brandy.
I don't. I still don't feel good. I'm feeling pretty rotten right now.
I can tell. If it's anything like what I have, It's brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal stuff, man. Well, at least you have 2 days off.
I do. And we're going to get through them. I'll probably be in bed sleeping, but that'll be okay.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, we worked today, and the temperature was nice here. I spent it all day inside. I wish I could have been outside.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a couple things real quick to talk about. So let me get to it. The first thing is this event. You want to talk about it, or do you not feel like talking?
That's all right. I can get through this part. On May 18th through the 19th, we are having a special event at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. It's going to be a great day. We're going to have a few speakers to start out. Then we're going to feed you. Then we're going to ghost hunt all night. We have some cool people that are going to be there. We have Jessica Potter, which she's a psychic medium, so that is really cool. Her friend, Rachel Marie. We have Josh Hurd from one of our favorite places, Malvern Manor. One of our favorite friends to the channel, Paul Anthony from Paranormal Among Us. And, of course, Letitia Nunnelly from Inhumanoids.
Yay.
So make sure you go to Eventbrite, click on Blondes and Booze and Eventbrite, and it should be the first thing that pops up.
Yep. You want to run through the channel lineup, and then we'll just go ahead and bring our guest up.
Sure, absolutely. On Mondays at 7 p.m., it is Danielle Diva in the Diva Dimension. At 8 p.m., it is Texas Front Porch with your favorite host, Tex, and your more favoritist host, me.
Brandy.
I'm the favoritist. On Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., it is Beyond BMR with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and his co-host Krista. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m., it is Donnie Cho Says Stuff. At 8 p.m., it is Inhumanoids with Barton Nunnelly and Letitia Nunnelly. On Thursdays at 8 p.m., it's Blondes and Booze. If you didn't catch the show last night, you can always go back and watch it. They're all there on YouTube for you. And on Friday nights, we come on at 7 p.m. Central, so don't miss that. On Saturdays, it is Paranormal Among Us with Paul Anthony at 8 p.m. And I hear that Krista may be showing up on that channel a lot, so you might want to tune into it. On Saturdays at 5 p.m. Central, it is Truth or Tinfoil with Randy Gilbert and myself. And at 6 p.m., Tex and Danielle Diva released the newest episode of Infamous Minds. And I want to remind everybody out there watching and listening and chatting, if you have not hit the like button, please do that on your way in. And if you're not subscribed, please hit subscribe and that notification button.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, wow, that's a mouthful. Plus, tonight, once our show goes off, Paranormal Roundtable comes on, too. So
yes.
everybody flip over there after work,
Yes.
and they'll be on.
Yeah, because we talked to Josh last night, and he's like, I said, well, Josh, we moved our time so you could come on early. He says, like, he can never get his stuff together. So you can look for him between 8:30 and 9 p.m. this evening. More like 9 p.m., he said. And don't forget, he goes live again on Sunday at between 7 and 7:30.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we have a guest tonight, and a lot of you guys know him in chat, and I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to bring him up because he had an incredible Dogman encounter. Let's bring him up. Mr. Pancho Zorge, how are you?
Oh man, if I was doing any better, then dadgum IRS would just ask for more.
There you go.
Right.
Totally get that. No, I was watching. I'm a fan of Sasquatch Theory. I like Miguel. I like that show.
Great guy.
I watch them all, and then I turned one on, and I was like, I know that dude, man. Hey, that's Pancho.
You can't fool me with that fake ass mustache.
Yeah, I recognized you. And I told Brandy, I was like, man, it's a really cool encounter. So I sent the episode of Brandy. I was like, maybe I'll ask him to come on the show and talk about his encounter because it really is kind of creepy.
Hey, I'm right.
Well, the creepy thing is that it is not far from me where you had this encounter. And so that just puts me on edge a little bit more. But then again, I'm sitting on the edge of the Mark Twain, National Forest. So that kind of makes sense to me. You're not far from, all the UFO sightings and blah, 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 where you were. So I'm like, that makes sense. It does for it to be creepy. So I'm excited to hear your story.
Oh man, that you picked the right story for tonight. I mean, who'd you have? Who had to cancel out to get me on this show?
Actually, nobody. We did not have any guests scheduled tonight, so
you're right.
Nope.
Well,
it was just going to be Brandy and I.
Oh well, no, I don't mind. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to get calmed down so when I tell my story, I don't act like a 10-year-old child.
You're good. You did a great job on Sasquatch Theory, so just.
Well, I'm pretty excited about the whole experience anymore. It's just it's an evolution of my experiences, I should say. But this one was by far the most dynamic experience I can ever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's just go from the beginning and start. You said you told us backstage that you were not a believer in Dogmen at that time.
At the time, no. I'd had some. I hadn't Dogman. No. At the time, when I saw my Dogman, I thought I had just had an experience before in Washington, and which changed my mind about that because normally I would have been like, absolutely not. That's not what I saw. There couldn't have been. I'm dreaming. I'm whatever. And then I had my. It just all so jumbled together because it happened all back, like October and then January of last year.
Okay.
Year before, the October before, and then last year. So it's all.
So let's start with the Dogman sighting. Where, when, how?
This happened January of last year. I had went out to the Greenville recreation area, which is the town of Old Greenville. It got moved. There's a whole story. If you've ever been out there, it's a great story. It's history, So, but I remember as a kid, I just moved out here, with the job at the time and everything. So I was looking for things to do, and I had remembered coming out here as a kid. I have a lot of family in the area. We came out as a kid once and had a good time out there before the campground was there, and jumped on the bike one weekend and rode out there and got to the park and parked my truck and got on my bicycle and got Sabo ready. And we took off with our Bluetooth speaker all in orange. We were, oranged up. January, you may as well be bright out there. If you don't want to, it's
sure
hunters and what have you. And so I'm blasting my music and we jump on the trail that goes from the boat ramp there at the Greenville Recreation Center, it would be the water access point there that the state, it's Corps of Engineer land.
Mm-hmm.
And then the park, which I understand is not Corps of Engineer land. And I ride that, and then it goes all the way into the new town of Greenville. The trail does. So I got on the trail, started noticing these signs. Was like, hey, park's closed, campground's closed. I thought, well, you know what? I'm pretty good at this, riding a bicycle. I didn't drive out here 2 hours to do nothing. I just rode past them, and yeah, I guess you call it trespass if you want. Rode that trail, music blasting, stopped off by the river, took a break over there for a few minutes. Rode that trail the first weekend I went out there. Had no experience other than seeing those signs. There was like probably didn't see a single person.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, I thrive in those kind of environments. So I thought I'm coming back next weekend to exercise my dog. And it's kind of a trip down memory lane for me as well, you know. And so I started heading out there. This would have been, I think this was the weekend of the 21st or the 24th of January. It was one of those 2 days, and I've got them kind of confused right now, but this would be the second trip. I load up on my bike, I load up my bike and everything. We start heading out there fairly early in the morning. It was probably dark when we left the house, and start driving and get into Greenville and start to pull into the parking area where the boat ramp and everything is. And I start realizing those signs there, they're farther out now as soon as we get to a certain point in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
And I drive past that sign and start to go onto the property. And this is where it started getting weird. Was I had this experience. It was almost like 10 to 15 seconds of my life sped up. And all of a sudden, as soon as I get that sensation that, what happened? I look up and I see a red and black helicopter, and it's a Hughes 500 or MD 500 helicopter. It was at the time couldn't really make out the color at that time, and it was just flying off. And I thought, well, it's probably just a farmer or somebody checking his fields. There's a lot of fields out there, a lot of crops, and it's really wet out there. I mean, it's after we had a really heavy rain and a lot of snow melt and things like that, and just a lot of accumulation in that area down by the river, because it follows the St. Francis. I thought it was the Black River, but it's the St. Francis. I made a mistake on Sasquatch theory, I think. But it's the St. Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember having that happen and coming around the corner to park in the same spot and looking up and seeing vehicles down there. And I got parked and I started realizing, I said, I know those are state game warden vehicles. Those are Corps of Engineer police officers. I used to work for the Corps of Engineers. And a couple of trucks and what have you. And one of the trucks had a big long trailer on it with a fuel tank on it. I thought, aha, epiphany or experience, call it what you will. They're a helicopter tending crew. Mm-hmm. All right, what's going on? I pay them no mind. I load up my bike, same way, Bluetooth speaker, orange gloves, orange bicycle, orange vest on the dog, 2 bells, and a leash, and paw protectors. he has booties. Very, very good. They're made in Colorado. They're actually leather. They're all leather. Really good for dogs' feet. I'll remember the name and bump his product. Really good for your dog.
Sure.
Keeps him out of any chemicals that have been applied to. But anyway, and I start to realize, I'm starting to doubt whether I should ride on this trail now because of the signs. And I'm like, 2 hours, bullshit. At the time, I think I was still under the impression that that's all Corps of Engineers land. Mm-hmm. Not no more.
Right.
So anyway, I get on my bike and I just turn on my music, tribal drums, the best music I've found on Pandora, tribal music. Get to cruising down this path. I ride the farthest path. I could have went right next to them and talked to them, but I said, no, I'm trespassing. Fuck them. I'm gone. They got trucks. I'm gone. I just ride past them and I go down to the park. go through the town and everything. There's a little path that you can go on, like one of the back roads. And so I take that and I end up going to, there's an old, like a little Civil War battle happened there. And I go past it and go down the trail and pull over next to the highway. And I took a little break there, or not, river. There's a little trail. It's a little half-mile loop that kind of branches off the main trail, and you can go down by the St. Francis River and hang out. There's a park bench there, and it's kind of a neat little overlook and what have you. And so I went over there, and then I turn around and I go right back into town, and I sit there, and I didn't have breakfast, so I had a burger and everything, and turn around and it had something to eat. I don't remember. It might have been, if it was a burger, it might have had a cone. I don't remember. But so I jumped back on my bike and start leaving the new town of Greenville. And there's a bank there. I think it's like People's Bank in that parking lot. And I go to let Sabo loose to get on that trail and just start booking it so he'd follow me. And I realize he's coiled up tight. And if you know dogs, you'll know what it looks like when they're ready to pounce. And I thought, oh, it's what dogs do. We're running. I just let him go. Boom. He takes off. Mistake. He takes off right for the highway.
Oh, wow.
And I'm yelling for him. He has very little recall now, especially if he's going after something he wants. And I'm still working on that. I need to work harder on it. But anyway, so he's got the zero recall, and he starts taking off to the road, and I start riding my bike toward just down the trail, hoping he'll think, hey, I better catch up to my dad. And he eventually, gave chase or ended the chase and came right back to me. I leashed him up right there. There's a little tree line that starts as you're going down the trail. I stopped right there, and that's where I caught him at, and leashed him up. And I rode back through the tunnel. There's a tunnel that goes under 67 there, and went through the tunnel, started maybe 20 yards after the tunnel. I let him off the leash, start pedaling. Mistake number 2. He takes off up that hill, and I'm trying to give chase, but I'm pedaling uphill. He's usually my uphill motor. He's not quite electric, but he helps sometimes when he wants to. And so we go up this hill, and I'm yelling for him, and I keep going, and we keep running. And it's probably 100 yards of us just booking it. And it's downhill in this particular area, and it's got one little curve, I think, and then it curves around to the left. And I'm sitting there anticipating all these, where is he going to come down this hill at? And I get to booking pretty good, and I look my left, and I look up at the top of this hill, and something huge. And I didn't realize how huge this thing was until I showed Miguel from Sasquatch Theory the site. But it stopped. And to me, when I first saw it, I thought, what the F,
Right. Same thing I probably would have said.
Yeah, but I'm on a bicycle cruising about 17 to 20, wondering where my dog's at. I'd say at least 17 miles an hour. And I see it, and it's looking at, when I first see it, I think it's looking at my dog. It's going to attack my dog. And I'm going, and then it just looks at me, and I thought, okay, dog safe, keep going. And it looks at me maybe half a second, and it was all gray. It was all gray. I can't even confirm that it was fur, is how gray it was. It looked like a set of old sweats. From a distance, it looked like it was just like everything was smooth. Like if it was fur, this was a well manicured animal.
Wow.
Leave it.
So did the dog notice it at this time? Was the dog aware?
He was on something. He I think the whole time, the time I let him off the leash and he was sprung, that he knew something was there. He saw something or sensed something. Hey, leave it. Come. He sensed something and was on its trail. German Shepherds, German Shedder, he does nothing but shed. They have very good noses. And so I think he was on the trail from that time on, and he got back on it after the bridge, or I'm sorry, the tunnel, and was following it. And between him and I, that Dogman looked at him as a meal, I think, and then looked at me and thought, I don't know. And I just remember its head being shaped like somebody with a set of earphones on, with the big rings, the big old ones, especially like maybe even shooter's muffs, but underneath a set of gray sweats. Because I couldn't really make out a face at the time in the snout until it turned left and gave me a profile.
Wow.
And when it did that and it started to run, but it was, if you've ever seen an old train piston, we should have by now. If you haven't, go get out and see America. Jeez. But you know how that it chugs, how it kind of moves its shoulder. Well, its first 3 steps gave me an indication that it just looked like that. And it was shaped like a dog leg, just like a dog leg, same ball, just like if you stood a dog up, that leg was just like that. But it just seemed to have a really odd, like it may have been injured or in some kind of state of trying to, how can I say, like concealment, state of change. I had a better word for it. But it just seemed to be trying to run, and it like did a 90-degree turn left, and just started that chug. It was 3 good chugs, and then next thing I know, that thing was going so fast, it covered probably what was 70 yards, 80 yards as I'm coming down this road, this trail, booking it, and it passed right in front of me and stopped on the edge of the trail, and probably 8 to 10 feet off of the trail, there's from the center of the trail, there's a tree there, several trees there, and one of them's a big 3-pronged tree you'd have to see the Sasquatch thing to get a better wrap of what it looked like. But there were several trees there, and it stopped behind one of those trees. And I remember when it started running that its front paws looked odd. It looked like something like this, and it just started chugging.
Gotcha.
And the feet looked.
So did you actually see fingers?
I think I saw them, but no, I can't say I saw individual digits. But I know that it seemed like it was fingers, because that thing, when it stopped behind the tree, and now mind you, when you get to that tree, it's like almost like 1.5 feet down to get to the tree when I was standing there. And then from there, it's 10, maybe 6 or 8, 10 foot down into swamp because everything's flooded.
Wow.
How was your dog reacting when you're watching
on the side of the hill?
Oh.
He was still running. He was still tracking whatever it was, but he was starting. I swear to goodness, he ran right where that animal was at. Whatever that was, Dogman. He ran right past it and down the hill, came out right at the tree where I had rode past it and stopped. I remember riding past where he stopped, and he put his hands up like this, like up the, mind the tree, like his left side of its body would have been behind the tree, stopped and looked at me with his hand like that. And then I could see its eyes. The markings on its face were like a horizontally oblong diamond. It was just
wow.
Kind of. And I remember looking at it going, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
you're good. It's all right.
Sorry, guys. I thought, and I resigned to, I'm either going to die now or have a story.
Right.
And I just kept pedaling harder and faster.
Could you tell what color its eyes were?
No, it was just all blacked out, like its markings. I couldn't make out eyes, teeth, nothing. Barely a snout. The snout wasn't huge, long, or anything like some German shepherds have really long ones and some have short ones. This one was like somewhere in between them.
Right.
And it was tall, and then no sooner than I wasn't 30 yards from it, and it stepped left behind this tree. It just kind of shrunk its shoulders and
Mhm.
stepped to the left and went behind the tree.
Wow.
And everything's inverse in the film, so in the video. But anyway, and I rode past it, and I remember, holy shit, look over my right shoulder. And I remember looking over my right shoulder, and there was nothing there.
Mhm.
Mere seconds. I doubt 3 seconds passed from when I was like, I better not poop my pants, to I just passed him, and I just looked to my right, and I remember, okay, go. I went maybe 20 more yards, and I stopped, and my dog was still coming down the hill, and he stopped right at that tree, and just like nothing happened.
Wow.
And he came to me, and I'm concerned, but he was acting like nothing happened. I leashed him up, and he pulled me up another 40, 50 yards. We rode up. He didn't necessarily pull me, but we rode up maybe another 40, 50 yards. There's a park bench. We stopped, and this guy engaged in some real thought-provoking thoughts of existence. It was
right.
I sat down and I listened, and I didn't make a noise. I made some decisions right then that people need to know these things. If nothing else, I would rather share what actually happened to me with people who've had it happen to them or believe in it, because the doubters, man, the doubters.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's one quick question I want to ask you while you're on this story here. Standing Stone 1776 asks, did it have a tail?
I don't remember seeing a tail at all. I actually, no, I can't say that there was a tail. I can't say there was fur. There was no smell. There was no sound.
Gotcha.
When I passed it, I had to stop and think about the way I had to reconsider life again. And this is not the first experience, but this one I said I have to tell people because it's eating me up inside. These experiences for me have been going on, not so much. Well, yes, so much Bigfoot started when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and not in Bigfoot form, but in the form of a shadow on the side of a house. I've mentioned it a few times.
Right.
The weird thing about the shadow is, 1, it looked like Bigfoot. 2, nobody else could see it but me.
Wow.
And so that's another story. But this Dogman, I passed him. I'm sitting there at that park bench, and I think about things. Me and my dog load up and go back. And at this time, sometime in this trip, I remember thinking that helicopter is back. But I never saw it again until I was exiting the park.
So how far down the trail away from your vehicle were you?
From how far was I when I saw the Dogman? From the let's just use the tunnel.
Okay.
I was probably 150 yards, maybe 200 yards from the tunnel. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Holy smokes! Because that's that I know that highway. I go to Brandy's that way.
Whatever it was, when my dog first sprung, it was following 67. It would have been heading south, following 67 south, and then he came back to me on the trail, which is east of the highway.
Wow.
And not far from the road. And so I do believe that my dog scented him or saw that, whatever that was. Right.
Well, what people have to understand is you're talking about 67 highway. It is a 4-lane. It's a divided 4-lane. But the traffic out there is not busy. I mean, that highway is just not busy, because Highway 55 that runs all the way up through St. Louis is usually the ones that all the trucks and everything will take. And the 67 is more or less a bypass is what it seems like to me. And there's not a whole lot of traffic out there. You can go quite a long time without seeing a car come down through there, even though it is a 2-lane divided highway.
Well,
and it hasn't, that divided highway hasn't been there a long time. It used to be just a 2-lane road that would go from where I'm at all the way to St. Louis. So
I remember when the what's now the little park was gravel. It was, as you're coming into town, that was all gravel. A lot more trees. Once they put the campground in, it's very nicely done. Very nice campground. But that area, what people would see is since you have the highway going through there, crossing the river, that southwest side of that intersection, which would be FF Highway that follows through that and goes around to another water access point. I can't remember the name of it, but it's right there is where the trail to the little half mile trail kind of cuts out there by the St. Francis River. And then you can actually see that area from where I stopped at that picnic table going in.
Gotcha. So when you seen the helicopter and all the park rangers and all that, were they there when you got back to your vehicle?
Yes, they were. The helicopter had actually landed.
To you? Did they?
I kept my distance, and I swear to goodness, they acted like I was a leopard. They paid me no mind. I rode back. There's a trail that goes. I didn't want to talk to him because if there is a Dogman out there, I'm not going to tell those guys. Those are the last people I'll tell.
Absolutely.
And so they're hunting out there. And I think that the pressure from that hunting, they were hunting hogs. And I think that pressure from the hunting is what activated the Dogman to be in that area anyway. Maybe from the spoils of the hunt, because he knows that there's going to be wild boar on the ground.
Right.
He just run by, pick up a few, and take off. Because whatever it was, I saw, if it's a meat eater, and I'm sure it is, he's big. And I'm saying 10, 12 feet. My first estimates were 7, 8, 9 foot. No, not when I was out there with Miguel. I was like, holy sh! Right, because I'm on a bike with 29-inch rims. I'm not short.
No, you're a tall guy. We've met.
Yeah, what I saw was, from my viewpoint, was still massive, but I underestimated it until I've been there several times since my experience before I even went out there with Miguel. It took almost a year to get him to line him out. He's a busy fella. That guy is he's bog all day long. He is boots on ground. He has the right setup. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think that they were there for, the government? Do you think they were there looking for this creature, that they knew it was there? Or do you think that they were there for something totally different and not Dogman related?
At first, originally, I thought there's no way that they're related to this. I was thinking that what I saw was taking advantage of a situation or was pushed into that area. Because that area, that FF highway that I was telling you that runs on the south side, runs west into, I forget the name of town now. I don't know why. I can't remember shit. Oh, CRS. That's a lot of what I call river locked property. There's the only access is from FF. There's no houses in there until you get to where my grandfather lived. And that's like at least probably 6-8 miles from 67. And that's where the farm sold when I was a kid, but I was an adult when it sold. But so anyway, there's a graveyard there, not 20, maybe 40 yards off his property. So, but that's no more than 2 miles away. And then they're just littered through there. And then what was even stranger, I was trying to be as incognito as I could on my way out. I wanted to get out of there because I definitely didn't want to tell those people. And I got back to my truck and I started loading everything up. And I remember it was a maroon Tacoma, I think, pickup, super cab. And the lady jumped out and she says, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said something snarky in a polite way. I said something like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm 51, single, driving. Got a job, have a nice truck, or something like that. Just something funny to her. And the dude that jumps out of the truck, I could have swore he was one of my uncles. But his lack of response, he got out and he looked at me and he just shook his head like, I have from one grandfather, I have 22 aunts and uncles.
Wow.
That's
a lot of kids.
Wow. And can't not a one of them seem to get along. None of my business. They, whatever it is. But that's how emotionally this whole Dogman thing goes back. I mean, like literally, like I was out there as a kid. Never saw nothing at that time. I was probably cognizant though of that shadow that I saw that nobody else saw outside of my house in Oklahoma.
Right.
That thing was there until my sister had a tree cut down. In my childhood home, she had the tree cut down, and I don't know that I haven't really been back a lot to really look at night, but I don't know that shadow's still there. And that's started I don't know if it was a lucid dream or if it was real experience. At 5 years old, my very first thing that ever happened to me.
So do you believe that was a ghost?
No, I don't think it was a ghost. It either was a shadow person or it was them trying to make contact, the woo side of Sasquatch, because whatever the shadow was or whatever it was using that shape, knowing somewhere down the line in my life, maybe I would be interested in Bigfoot. But I never thought a second about it. I think my whole perception of everything from politics, religion, and her for that matter, has changed everything over these experiences. And I used to just keep it in me. And it was this experience. It was when I sat down at that park bench and I said, I can't keep having these experiences and holding them in. I have to tell somebody. I have to tell my sister. I love her, and she's the last real family I have. I told her, and the dismissiveness, the ease of dismissing my story was incredible. I mean, it was not hard to take because I almost expected it, and it's true.
Yeah.
It hurt. Doesn't matter. She's still my sister.
Well, here's the thing though. People don't know how to take that. When you tell them something like this, it's not, I don't think that they don't believe you. They just don't know how to comprehend it.
She comes from a different religious side of the house. Like Bible is the gospel. There's no, as it's been taught to us from a church who we know has been hiding shit for years. You can't say it's one, you can't say it's none, but it's happening. They've withheld so much information from us, and I think there's a lot to be learned from history because they've been doing this. It seems like ever since Roman times, ever since there was a media, ever since whatever created us gave us speech, we've been at each other. I think maybe there was versions of us that were more telepathic in communication than talk. I think we felt we were more of an energy. I think the world used to be a huge, well-developed something happened. Something happened. To change this planet to what it is today. Nobody, and what do we know when everything, even the giants, when we start talking about giants, and I've known that my dad told me about this stuff. My dad loved history, and as a kid, he would tell me that the government was hiding giants.
Right.
It paid me no mind. I knew, he actually had a story. He told me something about, there was back in the, I want to say 50s or something. One of the colleges were out on our property out there, digging up some relics from a Indian burial ground.
Right.
You know, who knows? I couldn't tell you. I know the property's old.
What area is this property in, if I can ask? Just
Over
general.
closer to Marquand.
Okay. Which is Missouri.
Cherokee Pass, east of there.
Mhm.
And about the tribal thing, the tribal connections all seem to lean towards Bigfoot. Here I am. We're here to talk about Dogman. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
I'm just like a dog. You throw a tree down from me, you know.
Yeah.
So, but the Dogman experience for me really changed me. In my perception of things in the world. I really have to. I can't. It's just something's different. Something's changed at me. And
well, actually, Danita, she just asked, what has happened to you since to you? Have you seen UFOs or anything other?
Man, yes. Not long after, after my Dogman experience, I was out at Lake Wapapello.
Yeah.
Wait, before even that happened, I was at a dog park in Herculaneum, Missouri, on a trail portion walking Sabo. And I remember I stopped, and I can't remember if I was off trail walking him or if I was still on the trail, but I just remember I stopped and I turned to my left and it was looking parallel to the trail, and I heard something that sounded like Star Wars. Just like a few phaser shots and some CP3O talking or something it was only for maybe 1 second. And it was kind of a drizzly day. There wasn't nobody else out there but Sabo and I, the environment in which I thrive. I remember hearing that, and I texted a buddy of mine about it, and he was like, "Man, you're just having this spat of experiences." I said, "Yeah, I know. Just something odd's going on."
Yeah.
And so months after that, I'm heading back from Poplar Bluff area on the east side of Wapapello, and I find a little swim beach there. It's like 9:30, 10:30 at night to pull off with Sabo to get him fed. And I kind of drive over by the marina area and then turn around and drive back over. There's a swim beach with a lot of parking. And I jumped out and I start to feed Sabo. And I'm just, whatever I'm doing, I hear this thud. And I think, well, you know what? Raccoons, possums, they fall out of trees at night. I've heard that before, and that's kind of what it sounded like. But usually when that happens, there's a squeak, or you'll hear their feet as they jump back up on their feet and run through the leaves. You'll hear that a lot of times. I didn't hear that. And I thought, no big deal though.
Right.
And then I'm standing around, and I can't remember how long it was, but all of a sudden I hear this very, very loud tree snap. And I kind of, what was that? And I start looking around, and I realize there's some lights coming down. It's a really steep hill that gets into this little swim beach area, and I start to see lights, and I realize it's eventually, as this car comes around, I realize it's a county sheriff checking on things. And he's like, "Hey, anything going on?" I was like, "No, sir." And at this time, the tree snap, I was a little suspicious, but I didn't know what that was. And I didn't correlate the thud with the tree snap yet. I didn't realize that they were maybe connected.
Right.
And so he's like, "Okay, I was just checking on you." I was like, "Yeah, just feeding my dog, whatever." And he goes to pull in front of my truck. He doesn't get 10 yards in front of my truck. Boom, another very loud tree snap. And it stopped him in his car. He heard it in his car. Window may have been down. But he stopped for a second. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, was like, "I don't know." And he drives off. Well, not 30 seconds later, a kid comes up in a golf cart, and I just explained to him what happened. And had that conversation. He was like, well, you know, and I think it was weird experiences with kids anymore. They seem like they're plotting stuff. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, long story short, yeah, just that's one of the strange things that there are a couple of the strange things that's happened since.
Wow.
Nothing really strange other than maybe some like deja vu and some like numbers popping up, but nothing real strange.
How often do you go back down to that area?
At one time it was, you know, once a month. Yeah, it's probably, but I'm kind of trying to let it cool down. I'm trying to avoid the family land. I don't go around there anymore because it's personal. I don't mind driving by, but I don't go there much anymore. But yeah, I was going down there quite a bit, just off and on checking.
Right. Gotcha. So you had told Brandy and I before the show that about a Bigfoot encounter you had in Washington State.
Yeah, that happened just the October before, the year before in October. It would have been, I think it was like the 22nd of October. That's why I get my date, because I'm pretty sure it was the 22nd of October. And then the Dogman happened in February. But I was visiting my buddy. He had an experience, and at this time, remember, I hadn't had an actual Bigfoot experience. I'd seen the shadows, but not an actual Bigfoot experience. And so I wanted to go see it, the area at least. And he actually, you know, his story made it on a how to hunt, and it's kind of interesting. And I thought that's cool as hell. And I'll tell you about Bob from Washington. Bob from Washington, salt of the earth. Won't tell you anything that he doesn't mean. If I were to reach in my chest and hand him my heart and come back a week later, it'd still be beat.
Wow.
I don't distrust anything this man says. He's very passionate about his family, his hobbies, his perception. He's very cognizant of his persona. He wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah.
He'll never, if he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And he expects people, he only associates himself with people who would do the same.
Now, do you feel like kind of, I don't know, leery of going and riding your bike anywhere now?
Not really so much of riding my bike and going places. It's not as fun doing it by yourself. I think if I would have had somebody with me when this stuff happened, I would be on some show for Bigfoot just because I found Bigfoot. If I'd had a camera ready or somebody to video what I've had experience with me. The day before when I had this Bigfoot experience in Washington, well, I guess I will. Let's lead back into this. I get out of the airport, go hang out with my friend Bob. I hung out with him for a day or so, and we drove out to the coast and went to this place. Well, we'll just call it Donkey Creek Road. It's out near a very lovely town that I have a couple funny stories that emanated from that area of Hump Tulips, Washington. Hump Tulips, out near that area. So we go out there, we drive out there. It's like 8 miles off of Donkey Creek Road where he had, or at least the road goes back 8 miles. It's now cut off at like 4. It's blocked, but you can follow it back 8 miles. So we go back to where he had his experience, and we had nothing happen. We walked around for a little bit. He, banged some, tree knocked a little bit. His was mostly, I think, I don't know if he saw one, but I know my friend Bob, and he may have just heard it, and he said whatever I had on me, whatever weapon I had on me at the time, he said it was not enough gun.
Wow.
And because I asked, did you see it? Now all I remember him saying was something along that lines, but I don't remember now whether he saw it or not. But I know he heard it.
Right.
And they had an investigator out there really soon after it happened to check it out. So anyway, so we see this happened, which was a great time. We had some, we went out to his place out on the ocean and near ocean shores, and hang out for a few days, have a good time, and come back into the city because he's got to work and things. And I think, while Bob's working or doing something, I've got another. I used to live in the area. I've got a friend. I'm going to go hang out with him and go drive down this road. Well, I start just driving down memory lane because I used to fish and hunt that area. And I was heading into this town. There goes my memory again. Not Cleellum, but I'll have to look at it. I might not just. What the hell?
That's all right. You don't have to remember the name. That's all right.
But so I'm just driving down the road, and I remember this vehicle passed me, and it was a tan and turquoise Mini Cooper, but it was one of the 4-seat or 4-door ones, and it was kind of looked like a station wagon. I think it was the tan like running board kind of area, and then the rest of it was turquoise, or vice versa. But I remember it passed me because I'm like, I lock it in at the speed limit and just enjoy my ride. And it's Washington State. It's very beautiful. And I remember this car passed me and thinking, no big deal. And it got maybe half, maybe 3/4 of a mile in front of me. And I just look up and I saw what I thought was a cutout, a plywood cutout of a Sasquatch standing next to the road. And I was just kind of shaking my head like, there's no way. What kind of, who would put what kind of frame would it take to put a plywood cutout of Sasquatch that close to the road? Right. You can't do that. I mean, it's in the right of way. Who would put that big of a structure next to the road? And I remember thinking that, and that by this time, this turquoise and tan car that's driving passes another car at right in front of that Bigfoot. I swear to goodness. And this thing just walked right in between those two cars. Oh, wow. And it went down a road, walked down a road. I was still shaking my head like, what the hell? I had several seconds to get to that road. When I looked to I was thinking, okay, it's almost Halloween. There's probably somebody out there trying on their costume.
So when that creature went between these cars, did the cars like stop or?
No, I don't even remember seeing brake lights, but I did remember when I finally got turned around. I remember seeing that Mini Cooper again. He turned around too, but by now it was gone, and I'd forgotten and kind of disoriented and turned around and freaked out a little bit by myself again, and just thinking, what the heck, you know? But when I passed it, it was still there, and I should have made that right-hand turn and put that phone out my window. Something kind of inside me said, "Don't, though," and I can't describe it. I don't know if it was something, if it was communicating with me, because
could have been,
but I just thought But when I looked to my right, now mind you, the day before when I did the same thing driving around, I had my drone next to me, ready to go, the whole 9 yards, right? But the next day I didn't have that ready, and I just was trying to get from A to B. And when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. If I had I just.
So there's a couple questions. So let's go back to the Dogman really quick. Okay, Bettina Moss, our good friend Bettina, she asked, did you describe how it looked and how big it was, meaning the Dogman?
Yeah, the Dogman.
So can you do that one more time? Because she too had a Dogman encounter. So
okay. When I first saw it, I could have swore it was like 7 or 8 foot tall human that had, because by the time it made that left-hand turn and started running, I thought that's a huge, tall jogger. I honestly thought it was a jogger at first. Gave it half a thought. That's a jogger. And at the time, I estimated 7, 8 foot tall. But after, like I said, after seeing Miguel up on that on that same area walking, this thing was much bigger. I mean, I'm saying right now 10, 12 foot tall.
That's a big dog, man.
And it was all gray at the time. I didn't even see the banding. I kind of seen, like I said, it had like a hoodie on, from a sweat, like a hoodie with these big like earphones on underneath it. It was just kind of shaped weird, and then when it turned, it didn't have a really long muzzle, but it had a little bit of a face, and it was gray. It couldn't make out any fur.
Did it more look like, what people say, like the hyena type, or like Anubis looking thing, or
on it? At first, I would have to nail it down to Anubis, because when I got home, when I started getting home, that's the very first image that I saw that I was like, bingo.
Yeah.
But some of the artist renderings that I've seen lately are spot on, except for the fur and what I saw. But adrenaline, speed, distance, wind. Yeah. Well, I had sunglasses on, but had a lot to do with that. And I like to think and I did not see a tail. I remember not distinctly seeing a tail.
Yeah.
Because when it turned left, I would have saw something. But that leg cranking was like, holy moly, is it injured? I had that thought process going on as well. It's amazing how much goes through your mind so fast. I had these thoughts of, am I going to die? I'm just going to pedal on. I'm going to, is that a jogger? Why the sweats? And what was weird about the legs did not seem to be proportionate nor look like a human leg, but it looked like, if you've been in a hospital environment lately, they have these scrubs that are like tight-legged scrubs that kind of taper down to an elastic band, kind of like some of the old sweats used to do, but they weren't tapered much. And that's kind of what I was seeing, and I was just, this is hitting me all at once. I'm like, holy cow. I was looking for those analogies and seeing what I saw, and then looking for an analogy and then figuring out what I figured it looked like in milliseconds.
Wow.
And it was just that many thoughts go through your mind. And I don't think people understand, when you're trying to sit here and explain it, it takes a second. And it's happening. I was going 20 miles an hour. I know I was going 17.
Wow.
You can sure get to an accident real quick, let alone having this other stuff happen at 17 miles an hour. A lot goes through your mind.
Well, you mentioned, about like pictures and stuff like that. I think that would be the last thing I'd be thinking of. I wouldn't even think about pictures.
Yeah, I was just wanting to keep my eyes on it. Like I said, I thought when I seen it take that step to the left, I had resigned myself to, I'm either dead right now or this is going to be a good story. And I'm pretty sure that was my exact thought. Like, nobody's going to believe it.
Right.
But it's what happened to me happened.
Right. And, and that's Brandy and I's philosophy. We've heard a lot of things that people would be like, okay, right. But I've witnessed things that people would say the same thing to me, like, yeah, right. Type thing. So I wasn't there, so I believe you 110%, that, you had this Dogman encounter.
Yeah. The Dogman really freaked me out because I thought Sasquatch only. And then I'm like, what's next? What am I going to see now? What am I going to see?
There's a lot of weirdness out there.
There is.
Well, I've been talking about this area down here forever. I know there's something wrong with it. It's just not. I guess it gives me the creeps whenever I get out there at Markham Springs. Do you know where that is?
I know Markham Springs really well.
And I get out there and I get hiking around out there, and that gives me the creeps out there for sure.
So can you camp at Greenville? Because I'm this is running through my head, man. Maybe I see some of the brotherhoods in chat. We might have to.
There's a campground there. It's closed during when I think you'd want to be out there when there's nobody out there.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're used to that.
But there's places where you could go. There's that water access point down the road on the FF highway, but I don't know that you can camp there for sure legally, but it is, and I think that is core land, so I don't think they'll say anything about it because I've seen people out there camping. But and then it's like a 13-minute drive around to actually get back into Greenville. But that area there, if you had a canoe, an electric bicycle, man, it's woo for sure.
Yeah.
I think whoever finds the next great evidence is going to be able to say, I had an electric bike, I had a canoe, something. Something's got to give, because when I was on my bicycle, if they're paying attention, if these things are cognitive beings, they've seen bicycles before, and he was not expecting to see me at all, because it looks surprised or in some transformational stage is what I was thinking of earlier.
Absolutely. Brandy, I gotta tell you, I'm game. Let's go camping.
I mean, because actually you could go on either side of 67. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're at. There's tons of stuff.
What would be the southeast side of 67 there, right before you get to the bridge, there's a little road down there, and you can go down there, but there's a little cemetery down there that you can't see there. I can't remember if the sign's still there or not, but there's that one. And then if you go south towards Poplar Bluff about another mile, there's the tomb of the Civil War unknown soldier. It's on the side of a hill. They have a little memorial. I've stopped there a lot and take breaks there.
There's all kinds of stuff in this area, in this region that I'm in, and I've been talking about it for a long time because I know something's a little sketchy.
There's 2 or 3 other, at least. There's one with there's a cemetery back there that's just on the north side of where I had my experience. It's maybe half, 3/4 of, it might be a mile to exactly where the experience was, but there's a cemetery back there. It's an old dilapidated cemetery. I've been there a couple of times now. And I was trying to run into somebody out there to ask them if they wouldn't mind if I camped out there. Because then you may have a power or electricity or something that they can help, or at least, like, want to go in there with you, figure it out. But I don't want to go tell everybody, hey, have you ever seen like a 10, 12-foot dog running around?
Right. Somebody real quick, I'm going to answer real quick, asked, let me find, Danita asked how far it is from Hannibal. So, Brandy's house is 3 hours from me. So I'd say Greenville, and I'm outside of St. Louis in the O'Fallon area. And so it's about 2.5 hours from me, and Hannibal is another hour and 15 minutes from me. So it's a little over 3 hours, I would say, from
it's not that, for me, that's not a big distance. I mean, that's nothing. I do that with my eyes closed.
Well, she asked how far it was from Hannibal. So
I mean, it's not a far drive, really. It's a day trip easily.
Easily. That's why I'm thinking about maybe visiting.
And if y'all want to, there's a bicycle / general store in the area that's usually open on weekdays. There's a cafe there if you watch the thing, you'll see that they've got a Bigfoot statue out there.
Wow.
I forget, the Trails Inn Cafe. There's a supermarket there in town. There's gas. There's also a diner that's kind of like a old retro, great burgers. Oh man, they have buffalo too. I think they have buffalo meat. That you can get. Really nice little area. If you wanted to make a day trip of it, come out there and see if you guys can figure out.
For sure.
There's enough interest. I might show up and bring some scotch. Hell if I know. I don't know. Threaten me with a good time.
Letitia Nunnelly, she says, you going to tent camp with me, Krista and Brandy? Of course, we'll tent camp with you.
I'll car camp. I will car camp. I won't tent camp, but I'll car camp.
So have you ever, Pancho, seen out in the woods like orbs or anything like that?
I don't know that I would classify what I saw as an orb. at a distance, I say most of my UFO experiences have been brighter than bright white lights. All except for one, which was the absence of light.
Gotcha.
And so, yes and no to that question. But UFOs, it's usually just an out of place bright white light when I see them. My very first UFO was the absence of light.
So I guess the reason I was asking, because a lot of people, you said there's a lot of cemeteries and stuff, and Brandy and I have witnessed, orbs out in the woods ourselves. So I didn't know, with you being out there that often, if you've seen anything like that,
Just weird things, voices and just all kinds of different phenomena out there.
Well, speaking about oddness and what have you, and I do remember after I had my Dogman experience, there's a place where I go out back here to walk my dog. And that night, I remember walking out. It was 3 or 4 days after, maybe a week after the Dogman experience. And there's this little place where Sabo goes into the woods. I can let him off the leash, and he goes boom, right into that area every time. And we were walking along the little path that I used to get there, and he stops and he's peeing on something. And I look up, and there's a giant dog walking into that trail. I've never seen it a second time. It wasn't 10, 12 feet tall, but he was bigger than Sabo at the time, because he's about a year old at the time. It was bigger than Sabo, and it went in the woods. And I like I said, I didn't have I'm like the headlamp guy. I love wearing my headlamps when I need them. And it's a long story there too. But I just forgot my headlamp, and I just walked. I was like, nope, not for this guy. Nope. I'm not going to get eaten right where I live. Right. That could have been a stray dog. I'll give it that, but it was a big one. It was probably at least more than my knee high. It was probably like face to my belly button kind of height. And that's odd to see a stray dog that big.
Right.
Well, how tall are you, so people can get a grasp on what you're talking about?
I'm 6'4".
Okay.
And I'm not like obnoxiously tall. I'm just tall enough for people to go, hey, can you change my light bulbs for me?
Right.
Can you get that for me? Yeah.
Can you reach the top shelf?
Yeah. You have a couple more questions here, and Bettina Moss asks again, what color was its eyes, and did you feel a sense of fear or evil from it? That's a great question.
Very, very good question. I could not see its eyes. All I saw was its markings. It was like elongated diamonds, horizontal, like diamonds, like elongated horizontally diamonds. They were longer than it was wide. Like when it turned, I didn't see its eyes really until it got to that tree, put its hands up, and looked right at me. I mean, if it was looking right at me, it burned little holes right through my eye sockets. It just pooch.
Wow.
I remember thinking, like I said, right then was either a good story or today's it. And
today's it, right?
I hope my dog makes it to a good home.
And we did talk about the fact that about how you were feeling at the time, how you weren't studying every inch of it.
Yeah. No,
I was thinking lots on my mind that, like, hey, how am I going to stop this bicycle? How am I going to get my dog? What I just see, how that happened, why me?
Or how am I going to live through this?
Right. Right. Yeah. She actually has another good question here too that we kind of didn't touch on. We talked about the color, but if you could say that again, and what color was it, and was it skinny or muscular like a bodybuilder?
To me, it was all gray, very, very skinny. Not very skinny. Let me explain that. From about the rib cage down, skinny. The legs and everything. I remember thinking, oh, this thing's puny, because I was thinking that 7, 8 foot tall at the time. It's not as big as I was. Wasn't as big as a Sasquatch I saw. And that's what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And little I know that Sasquatch was probably pretty tall too. because I haven't really been back to do anything there. But anyway, so eyes, I didn't really see it because all I could see was what looked to be just kind of like a shaded out area until once it turned left, I could kind of make out a little bit of snout and stuff.
Sure.
The eyes, just the diamonds.
That's interesting.
The upper body was like the chest and everything seemed to be more proportionately larger a little bit, and then its arms and stuff seemed to be pretty skinny. Like dude, man, you skipped legs and arms when you were a kid, didn't you? Sorry. Yeah, that's.
But you also said that it had like a jackal type head.
I wouldn't have at the time. I would have said nothing about jackal. I wouldn't have associated this with any other animal other than a dog, a regular canine, maybe a German Shepherd even. I mean,
well, Kim asked, this might be a good time to answer that. Did it stand up on two legs or on all fours at the same time?
It was on two legs the whole time. When I saw it stop, I mean, if I remember right, it almost slid a couple inches or something like it. When it stopped, it was like it was looking at my dog, maybe heading for my dog, and then saw me, and then I saw it, and it stopped, and we just, what the hell? And then it just took off across that. It's kind of like the hill. He was kind of on the side of a hill, on the top of the hill, but kind of followed the top of that hill down, and it's not. I'm watching Miguel go through there. I've walked the area since then, and even before Miguel, there's no way you struggle to get through there. This thing didn't have an ounce of struggle in it. It was all stride. It just once those legs got moving, there's that three, thump, thump, thump. But I didn't hear that. I just in my mind I thought steam engine.
Yeah.
I thought, how odd is that? It could have been hurt. Transformational stage.
Yeah.
Spooked. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I know that it didn't come towards me. It didn't go away from me. It didn't cross back in front of me. And if it went to the left, it got wet.
Wow.
It could have gone up because that tree could have gone up. Oh, yeah. And then when I was telling you about the tree snaps, I'm sorry. We forgot about that. There's more to that story. Talking about one of the trees that was at the Dogman experience had fallen. There's a big three beam, I guess you call it 3-beam tree. Well, I don't know that it was falling when it happened, but it was falling on the ground when Miguel and I got back. But I remember it before that too. But anyway, I don't want to keep it on Dogman because that was
no, you're good.
Hey, Krista.
Actually,
Krista, I got a quick question. You got your cat around you or something?
No.
I'm hearing a purring sound. Don't ask me. I'm just saying.
My cat, I think, is in the living room. Where's your cat? You got a cat too.
Yeah, but she's not in here.
No, my cat's not in here either.
You
got a cat, Ponto?
What's that?
Do you have a cat?
No, I don't. Not opposed to it.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay, over my cat's at this.
I'm losing my mind. I hear it and I'm like, I don't have a cat in here. Okay.
Mark, I'm not for sure about that, but it just, I don't know if it was saying, don't hit me. Don't, like I'm scared too. I don't know if it definitely, I didn't feel any, like as to the question earlier, I didn't feel anything evil from it. No smell. I didn't get a sense. I was thinking in the back of my mind, I don't want to die, but I wasn't feeling like it was trying to hurt me. Maybe my dog, but then saw me and associated the two because it probably thinks way faster than I can.
Right.
I'm synonymous with mistakes. But
wow.
So yeah, I just don't know how it could have been that big, moved that fast.
Sure.
and
Well,
everything else that happened.
Glade's creature says some are reported as disfigured looking too. So I could see that.
Yeah, I would say it looked, the proportions just weren't right. When I saw what I saw, I thought this thing shouldn't even be able to walk, let alone blaze its own trails and do what it would, just cover that kind of distance that fast. I don't know if it was, what would have happened if I would have just stopped right there? Would it have just talked to me?
Yeah.
What would it have done? And if I would have stopped, but like I said, my dog was still up and behind me running that trail.
Sure. Kim says werewolves can mind speak with you like Bigfoot, especially if they're government chipped. Werewolves are dogmen. I did not know.
Well, if it was chipped, they were listening to the conversation.
Well, that's just kind of weird because the government was there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. If they were chipped, they knew they were there. They were like, this dude is going to die, or that they didn't really want to. They didn't even so much as wave at me. They didn't, and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was not on an e-bike rocking Rory.
No.
Just saw that question pop up. I've not been paying too much attention. I'm sorry if I see a question.
No, it's all good.
Your time.
It's my first time.
You're good. You're good. And if anybody's interested in actually seeing the location in the area that Pancho Zorch was at, Sasquatch Theory, it's a great, he does a great job on, he goes out, he's out in the field all the time. I highly suggest going and watching, I think he put this episode out, what was it, this past weekend?
Yes.
And you can see the full area because they actually do a bike ride and go back to that where all this happened. So it's worth watching. Yeah, that's where I saw it, and then I recognized Pancho. I'm like, hey, I know him.
Yeah, that area right there. I think if, but like I said, that Dogman, it's being there had probably something to do with them being in the area. If they were legit just hog hunting, I have not seen the rooting around, and all my riding around out there, I've not seen the rooting around, the destruction, the carnage of hogs.
Right.
No.
Not that that's easy to see, and not that I spent a lot of time out there, because mind you, I'd only been out there in that area the weekend before the experience.
Yeah.
It's, and why, did I ground myself there? Are they attracted to me? Because I've had so many weird experiences.
And you make a point there because our friend Bigfoot Michigan Rob, who a lot of people know in chat, and he has had like every possible weird type encounter. And I think because he's open to all of this, and maybe you are too, Pancho, maybe you're a lot like him in that way.
Well, I see JoJo, this government chip mass breeding programs and underground bases. Okay, I don't know if I was living in Oklahoma when this was all going on. There was several years, a couple of years where Oklahoma, which has always had earthquakes in the hundreds every year, 100, 200 every year since the 40s, 50s, since they started recording earthquakes. Well, all of a sudden in like 2015, 2017, maybe 2018, I forget the exact year. All of a sudden, for like 2 to 3 years, earthquakes by the thousands.
Yeah.
It's
odd stuff.
Well, I was thinking, how weird is that? Next thing you know, I run into an old buddy of mine who was telling me, he goes, we had my company had to give us all this training because it was a government entity that was paying us, and all we were doing was hauling rock and dirt. I said, what, when? He said, it was the craziest thing. Sometimes we would be in these tunnels that we would drive in and pick up our load. They would have it excavated into the back of our trucks. Like, they weren't using loaders a lot of times. They were using conveyor belt systems to load these trucks. And he said that he had several of his friends that he called them up and said, hey, they're looking for trucks. And they were all subcontracted to haul stuff all over the state. Yeah. They were hauling the spoils from these during the same time as all these earthquakes. Call me crazy, but why are you underground if we're having thousands of earthquakes a year?
Right. Yeah. Danita makes a good point here. She says, hogs are an excuse, like a bear with mange or a pack of wild dogs getting old. I agree.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what direction that question or that comment went, but it is what it is. That's what was going on that day.
Yeah. Wow.
I called the Corps of Engineers and asked them, and they said yes, that's what was going on. That's why the parking lot was closed down for the helicopter, and that's why the signs.
Corey asked real quick, where in Oklahoma?
Where in Oklahoma am I from? Would be just outside of out of Oklahoma City area, a little town. But but any of my anyway, I don't know exactly where all the earthquakes were because the way they report them, and I wasn't really into it. But
yeah. Well, and James says, if they're blasting, that will be recorded as small earthquakes.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And see, but there was another comment about there because there's Fort Sill out there, and they do a lot of ammo detonations, right? A lot of artillery going off, 155 millimeter artillery splashing on the regular out there.
Yeah,
and there are sites within inside a few miles that record earthquakes. There's one in the town of Mears, Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, you can go look at it. Well, those explosions that happen on the daily out there barely make a ripple on that machine. An earthquake, you'll know.
Yeah,
they have documentations of days that there's earthquakes, and like, hey, this is what happened, and but I think personally that's the government doing something underground. Now, whether my buddy was making up his story or not, I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Corey Cole, I'm wearing an OU shirt right now too.
Yeah. Gary says all the artillery goes off at Sill. That's where I was at. Is what he says.
Thanks for your service, Gary.
You too. Yeah.
Well, sorry, Gary. Thanks for your service. If he was at Fort Sill, he'll understand that one.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Sorry,
Corey Cole says, Poncho's Orch, I live 30 miles from Fort Sill. Boomer sooner, baby.
Well, Corey Cole will understand that too, because anybody that's spent any time at Fort Sill, you don't have any hearing left, so you got to speak up around those people.
Gotcha.
It's artillery. It's a bang.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up to the hour and a half mark
already.
Yeah.
Already.
This is going really fast.
But I do want to mention something. And this doesn't have anything to do with this. Talk about this purring cat. Paranormal Among Us Paul said he rewound the show and heard it twice.
Mm-hmm.
He heard the cat purring twice, and then he keeps hearing it, and I do keep hearing it. And I'm like, what is going on with this purring cat?
Must be me. I don't know.
My cat is not in this room.
My cat is no, my door is shut. No cat.
Maybe I'll see Catwoman next. I don't know.
That maybe, you know.
Surprised me at this point.
It was just really weird to me. I'm hearing this cat, and I'm like, what is going on? And there is no cat in here.
I'm hearing it.
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I never have heard the cat, so.
Have you heard the cat before?
I did not. Brandy did.
I heard the cat, and then Paul, he rewound the show a little bit and listened to it, and he heard the cat twice purring, and then we keep hearing it.
So
everybody's saying ghost cat.
Not hearing. Is everybody hearing it but me?
I don't hear it either.
Kristen's not hearing it either.
Oh. That's just weird. That is weird.
He said it was that an hour and 10 minutes.
And 10 minutes.
After the show, everybody can go back and listen for the purring cat.
This is funny. JoJo says maybe Brandy's attachment got a kitten.
It wouldn't surprise me. They're just bringing in animals now. I mean, I ignore it now, so it's probably trying to find
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, Cowboy heard it too.
Bonus kitty.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
I
All
don't
right.
know.
Yeah, that's crazy. But thank you, Pancho, for coming on. We definitely
Yes.
appreciate this for sure.
Yeah.
It was a lot to download. I hope now everybody's gonna. Anyway, long story, but I appreciate y'all having me. I think it was good for me to talk about it. And get
Absolutely.
It out. I just this world's a weird place, man.
Yeah.
I think we're so devolved from the greatness of what we used to be that the more of these things we experience and that we see and we get out there, maybe we'll learn more about the way we used to be and want to strive to maybe be greater.
Sure.
We just nobody knows what is actually out there. You can't, but there's just so much evidence pointing in every. There's hardly anybody that you can say that they don't have some type of evidence for these things that are happening.
Sure.
You know, it's just the sheer numbers. You can't deny this. And I told my sister, I said, they can't all be crazy. They can't. I mean, there's, and there's so many that don't report. I never would have reported until that Dogman. I just never would have. I mean, I just thought, you know what? If this thing is what it is, and I can't change it, I can't kill it. I don't want to kill it. I don't want it. I think it's way smarter than we know.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I want to thank everybody real quick. Dorothy, thank you very much for becoming.
And welcome, Dorothy.
And welcome, yes. 1234 for gifting. Jason, thank you very much. Lucky the Beagle and Molly. Too cute. I love that. Thank you very much. And then Justin Boyd, we appreciate you too. And
Absolutely.
Amy Creel, thank you very much. One last question. Danita asked, no lost time?
I gained time in the beginning. Remember, that's when I was in the truck still heading in. It was like 15 seconds, boop, pow. And I remember what an odd sensation looking up, seeing the helicopter. But
yeah,
2 and 2 together. I should have suspected something was up. I should have said, you know what? Because like just weird things happen either before or after most all my experiences. Like the day after I saw the Sasquatch, I was driving around. None of my electronics would charge back to, I think the highest I ever got one was at like 60%. And then as I was going up one of these mountainous roads in Washington, we have these game birds that are very elusive. Not chucker, but I can't think of what they're called now. God, on my mind. But they were on the side of the road, and it was kind of a misty day, rainy in Washington. But I saw these 2 birds on the road that would normally fly away. I mean, when you see them in the wild, they seen you first and they're gone. You just hear them flop off, and that's it. But yeah, it's
crazy stuff, man.
Man, is it crazy, or are we? What? Who determines what crazy it is?
That's true.
Yeah.
Very,
as
very
I say, let your weird hang out.
That's right. Let your weird hang out. Yeah.
I love myself.
There you go. There you go. I want to remind everybody to tune in over to Paranormal Roundtable. He'll be starting here probably within the next half hour, 45 minutes. And tomorrow night, tune in to Paranormal Paul at 8 p.m. Brandy, you and Randy come on 5 p.m. on Sunday?
5 p.m. on Sunday, yeah. So
Next comes on at 6, and then I believe Josh goes live at 7.
Yes.
So
between 7:30 depends on when he gets done. But it is Paranormal Among Us. That is the name of the channel. Yes. So make sure you tune in at 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
Leave the ditch.
Yes.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.